All right, welcome. I'm going to be talking about 6 years journey of empowering open source communities. And my name is Shuah Khan. I'm a kernel maintainer and Linux fellow at the Linux Foundation. I lead mentorships at Linux Foundation, and I also mentor kernel developers. And I have several of my graduates here in the room, which is awesome today. All right, so quick numbers. We have started this program with, I don't have 2019 numbers, but I've had 3 graduates, kernel mentorship kernel graduates in 2019, the year of inception. And since then, we have been continuously growing. These numbers you can see, we had program graduates 116 in 2020, and we are up to 253 last year. We completed last year with that. And you will see that we have several programs. Cloud Native runs the largest number of mentorship programs. They have about 55. They average 55 to 60 a year. And they have various programs in that. And then you will see the numbers here, the same slide, in same numbers in a different way. We have these 253 graduates last year come from 213 programs. So usually, most mentorship programs have 1 or 2 mentees that they work with on a small project. Kernel is a little bit different. Kernel is a large code base, so I end up taking a lot more mentees each session. So I mentored about 150 a year, and then we end up with about 53 to go on to graduate. So a mix of, I would say that the mentorships are tailored to the communities, the way the communities work, the way the communities do their development process. So that's why you will see the numbers. But at LFX, we want to make sure the communities can run their mentorships the way they want to bring new developers into their communities. So it's customized. And then we get a lot of applicants. These applications are the people that have applied to the mentorship programs the entire year. You can see that as we have last year we had 13,840 applications. And then you have to be first of all, you have to be in a very select group to be accepted. Partly resources, partly mentoring resources, partly funds. So we end up taking applicants that really demonstrate that they can complete the program or they have interest in the program. So you can see that from 13,840 applications, we have about 253 graduates. So those are the numbers. And numbers are numbers. Numbers are good to have, to see that we are making progress and then we are meeting the needs of the new developers that want to come into the open source communities. The real test comes in, though, that what happens afterwards, after they graduate. And what we do is we connect our graduates. Our graduates are sought out by employers. And you can find our graduates on the mentorship site. You can click on that site and go and see. And we also do, what we do is we have mentorship showcases, what we call. And then at open source summits, that's a way for us to connect our graduates with prospective employers, because employers are looking for talent, especially open source talent that's trained in open source. It's very difficult to find people that are trained in open source, developers that know already how to function work with the communities and understand open source philosophy. So this evening, 5 o'clock, remember, showcase, Ballroom 1AB, we'll have several of our graduates, 2025 graduates from all of our projects, showcasing their work. So the way I view mentorships is, and that is true with all of the communities that we run mentorships, CNCF and decentralized trust, or whichever other, risk 5 is another big one. We all look at it as today's mentees are future contributors, maintainers, and leaders. So that's where we want to take them. So that's what we focus on at the Linux Foundation in terms of providing resources. Resources are equitable. Access to resources is difficult. It depends where you are, who you know, sometimes what kind of, it's a word of mouth sometimes. And I think Brigham mentioned that he found out about the program by just searching, Google searching. And sometimes you hear from others, and I have heard from University of Texas, Austin, that it's a rite of passage for them, some of the computer science graduates, to be able to go through this program. And at some universities, these are very popular. CNCF the same way. When in some universities, they do a good job of making sure these resources are available. And boot camps, I mean, universities run boot camps, and the boot camps are also a good way to find out what these are. We make a lot of content available for free. If you were to go to the webinars, we have a content of, I think we have about close to 100 free webinars that are hosted by kernel experts. So you can check those out. These are all, I'm going to leave this slide for resources. You can share this. Please feel free to share. And LF Education does makes courses available. There are a lot of content for free courses. And I use my own course to screen people, LFD 103, which kind of walks through how kernel development works. And then we also have Lift scholarships and blogs and so on. I think the biggest thing that comes out of these is being able to plan. You can go into education site and then plan your paths and say, hey, I want to become an expert in CNCF. So what is your path? In terms of taking classes to mentorships to webinars and so on. So I'll leave that with that. People ask me, why do we mentor? Why can't people find, because these most open source projects are remote. There is the code available on GitHub. You can engage the community, and you can do all of that. Why do we go through the process of this mentorship? The reason for that is it's just to teach and share the expertise in multiple different ways. Technology, open source philosophy. What does open source means? What does it feel like working with open source communities? And all of those things. Another benefit is you are strengthening and growing your project communities, because diverse thought, that is the strength of open source, and you want to be able to keep bringing people, developers from different life experiences. Life experience is different even if you were to live in the same country or community, and access to resources is different. Say, for example, somebody submits a patch saying, I'm improving power management on my cell phone. They could be looking at, I mean, we have power outages in California too. So you want to have your devices last longer, right? So that means that somebody that is going through that experience of, hey, I want my device to last a few more hours, they would want to look at power management, and they might be submitting patches. And so some of these are the diversity of thought. That's what makes Linux kernel so powerful in some ways, because people are contributing. People are coming in and saying, this is our use case. We want to fix our use case because we care about that use case. And people are testing too. Sorry, I'm going to talk about Linux kernel because that's what I do. So, but that applies to all of the open source communities, really. So you are saying, hey, I have a use case. It's not working for me. I want to make sure my use case continues to work. That's why you are engaged in testing. So you are engaged in different facets of development because of that reason. Because you're really looking out for yourself while you are contributing that stuff which benefits everybody. So the maintainers can benefit from the mentorships because of all of these reasons, and also they'll get extra help. Casey here submitted 16 patches last time. So he's one of my graduates from, Wave, one of my graduates from last year. So he ended up sending a patch, and then Greg Hartman, one of the maintainers, he looks at the patch and says, he goes, I don't like the way you did it. This is how I want you to do it. Go look for all of the opportunities to fix rest of the drivers. So next thing you know, he's in 3 months, learning the basics of the kernel development and ended up with 16 patches. So that's fantastic, right? So that's where the maintainers can benefit from, if you guide them the right way. And we also don't want too much hand-holding. We want them to be able to come in and learn and stay. Staying longer means that they need to be able to figure these things out. They need to be able to motivate themselves, and so on. So anyway, the people that hopefully they'll all continue to contribute and they become future leaders. And then what is the benefit to the open source communities itself? I touched on this before, that health of the community and how diverse ideas and diverse thought process, experiences that people bring in, developers bring in, makes open source communities strong and sustainable. So that's really what we're looking for. And then you also improve security and quality of releases, because most of the 150 graduate students, mentees that every year I mentor, they're all testing, right? They are testing on their QEMUs, they are testing on their environments, they are actively participating in the kernel development process. So you're making the releases better as well going forward. And most importantly, for any prospective employers in the audience, and you are getting a talented pool of people that are trained by experts. I will say experts in the communities means that there is another benefit to it. We're also sharing what it means to us as community members in the kernel community, what drives us, why are we continuing to maintain the kernel, continuing to contribute to the kernel. So we're passing on that, not just technical knowledge, we're also passing on that thought leadership and then philosophy of why we do what we do. I'm going to share, now we looked at numbers and we looked at all the stuff about benefits and so on. I'm going to share some of the voices of our graduates. I went and compiled, we asked our graduates to write blogs. I will share the link to the blogs of my graduates later on in the presentation. And then we asked them to write. There are two reasons. One is that as somebody that bootstrapped myself for the kernel development, I know how hard it is. And when 5 years later, you are looking at your first patch and first changelog, first commit that is accepted, it's very special. And how did you feel in the first 3 months or 6 months of the development? You are documenting that experience. And then later on, you can talk about it. There are multiple reasons why you want to do this. And so some of our graduates shared what it means to them. Pivotal experience in my professional development. That's what they said. And broadened my technical horizons. What happens is when they graduate, they get involved in the participating in CNCF communities, for example, which is large, lots of different technical pieces in there. They get exposed to all of that. And then when they come to conferences like this, they're exposed to a broad range of technical. It just expands their world in some ways, I think. Invaluable insight in open source collaboration and community dynamics. So community dynamics is the thing. Sometimes we can say, hey, I know how to write C code, or I know how to write Rust. I just send a patch. That's not what it is. It doesn't make you a successful open source developer. You need to be able to take feedback from people that are looking at these patches, and you want to be able to say, address the concerns of the community, and be able to explain to them why you are doing this, why should they take your patch. Nobody's obligated to take your patch, right? Closed source, probably some of you worked in closed source. Closed source, your patch goes in. Your code goes in, not patch, but code goes in. They are asking you to write the code. They will take the code. But nobody is asking you to write open source code. So nobody has an obligation to take your code. The only reason they'll take it is that it adds value to the code base. It adds value to the community. So, and then that dynamics part is where you get with mentorship. You have a guide, a mentor telling you, hey, this kind of communication works, and watching your communication, and that's what I do with all of my mentees. I kind of go and say, hey, sometimes mentees will come and say, you're translating. So some maintainer goes, I don't like the way this is done. Check this. Or you have 2 other opportunities to fix 2 more patches, 2 more contributions. It's hard to read sometimes. Maintainers can be cryptic. They have lots of patches they're looking at. So sometimes understanding the dynamic takes time. So you are, in those 3 to 6 months, you are getting over the hurdle of how to communicate with the community, how to get your work accepted. And that is really, really the tougher part of being an open source developer. Working closely with the experienced maintainers, explore and learn together. So that is, again, mentors. I learn a lot from my mentees sometimes, because somebody new comes in and they're looking at something that I have done forever in a certain way. They come and tell me, oh, we did this. It's like, oh, that's better. So you have to be able to also learn from your mentees. And then, so this one is a kernel. This kind of spoke to me, because kernel was the magical thing I only knew how to build but couldn't begin to imagine how it worked. The program bridged the gap and showed that I could, even with limited experience, contribute to the kernel in meaningful ways. So that really spoke to me. And so another thing that mentees say is that they are they're making a difference. Meaning, if you are sitting behind corporate walls doing closed source work, you don't see the impact until the product goes out. It could be 2 years from now, 3 years from now. As a personal satisfaction-wise, when your patch goes in, we do time-based release, probably you know, kernel. So when the patch goes in, it's running, and it's working. And Felipe did KUnit work. So his tests are running now. People are using his tests. So when a release comes out, he knows that his work is part of a released kernel, which comes out every 3 months. So it makes a real-world impact. And then the other thing, this is again from Linux graduates, bedrock of the whole IT, hands-on experience, and contributing to large-scale real-world subsystem. I mean, 2 million lines of code, right? 2+ million lines of code. And then hands-on experience. Those are all the things that come out. And then another thing is it's a platform for personal growth, somebody pointed out. They contributing to meaningfully to a real-world project. They can see they can see themselves as a part of this open source ecosystem when they make that first contribution. This is another one that stood out for me. In novice in the open source community to a confident contributor. That's really what we're hoping to do, right? With the mentorship, we are saying, you might not have written a single line of open source code, but when you come in, you are learning the ropes, and then by the time you leave, you graduate, you have become a confident contributor, and then you can continue to contribute. And it gives you, and then you're also learning from experts, right? So communication skills. We might all speak English, but we might all speak the same language. Communication skills are, I don't know that effective communication skills are taught well. You have to learn, you have to figure out. And without effective communication skill, it's hard to survive in the open source communities. So that is another benefit of you are working with a guide, you are working with a mentor that's telling you, hey, the way you are explaining this, it doesn't come across right, so do it this way. So I hold office hours once a week. So that's part of the thing that I look at and think, okay, so you know what, the way you explained it doesn't work. Sometimes even you have to tell people how to ask for feedback, right? Some people might say, I do see people that go, ask for feedback, but ask them in a way that you get the attention. So let me see what else. I don't want to leave out anything. Challenged me technically. So that is the one that the projects do. They bring you into hands-on experience, and they challenge you technically. They will introduce you to new technologies, and then you do end up doing meaningful work like improving the performance of a subsystem, or adding a new feature, new test, new, in some cases you might write a new driver even for a kernel, a test driver, or even a regular driver. Then what happens is some of my graduates are in the maintainers file, because what happens is they figure out ways to contribute. They go, okay, you know what, this audio system needs to be tested. I want to go write a virtual driver for it. So that becomes part of the code base, and they continue to become maintainers. Let me see. Proud sense of accomplishment. That one first patch goes, I still remember when my first patch was accepted. It's like, you're on, cloud 9 or somewhere. It's like, oh, I did it. So what are the takeaways for me from all of these personal quotes? Learning from experts and experienced developers. Collaborating with experts in open source communities. You don't get to do that. Some of the people that we mentor, some of our mentees, they are in their third year undergrad, or sometimes second year undergrad. And for US people, it's sophomore and junior. And some of them come in masters. And some are, I have had PhD students come in and do some mentorship with me. So they really want to expand their horizons and learn something from experts, and then also contribute to the real world projects. It means a lot to them, because the landscape was different when I was in college. We didn't really have this much information floating. But at the same time, there is a lot of information. How do you sift through and find the right nuggets? So that is the part which is difficult. So that's where mentors come in and say, hey, take this, don't look at the kernel as the entire project as a whole. Take a look at 1, 2 subsystems, focus on those, and learn, and help them along. No, we already looked at this. That means a lot to me, though. Somebody that is totally new coming in and walking out of this program as a confident contributor. That means they will stay. They will either contribute, they will probably may not have the opportunity to contribute. Sometimes some of my graduates, some of the graduates from this program end up behind closed companies that might not want to or might not allow them to contribute. But I hope that they have this experience with them, then they take as they are through their career and then make choices, different choices just because of this experience. Personal, professional, technical growth. Personal growth, we underestimate that, but learning communication skills, confidently talking to a maintainer or a expert saying, hey, what I'm doing makes sense. Can you tell me why you think it doesn't make sense? Even that is a personal growth. You are kind of going and saying, I know what I'm doing. I mean, you don't want to go tell maintainer when you're obviously wrong, but you have to read that too, right? You have to be able to go and ask the questions and tell me, I am new, please tell me, please help me. So that's also a personal growth part. So you can read, there is the top one is the Linux kernel mentorship graduates blogs. I post them on my wiki, on the Linux kernel mentorship program wiki. And then we at CNCF batches like their graduates, and then you have term 1 spring and term 2 summer. So they publish their blogs. You can go take a look at that. So does LF Decentralized Trust, and that's another one of our bigger. They have a lot of programs, and so they have like 35 to 40 projects that they host each year. And then you can also check their testimonials on the YouTube. And then unlocking our CNCF program manager for the mentorships, and he wrote this blog about why maintainers should mentor. So this is a very insightful blog. You can take a look. And then the one that behind the scenes, I wrote about how I manage 150 graduates. And it is difficult. How do I find work? Finding work is hard, actually. Getting them in the kernel, really. But we do it every year. What does research show? So there is a Tech Trends. Please grab one if you haven't seen it. The Linux Foundation Research put this together, and you can pick it up in the showcase. So some of the things that came out, stood out for me in this study is hiring and onboarding takes 62% longer than upskilling. Meaning, if you bring somebody new, you can't teach them open source unless you have a very strong open source group or team that you have. Red Hat might do it, SUSE might do it, they are in open source, but it's not an easy task to train some of your employees in how to be successful in open source. So, and then that is, so in entry-level apparently takes like 7.6 months to train somebody. That's a lot of commitment after hiring, right? So whereas where I see the internships and mentorships come in is we are coming in and we are saying we are going to, Outreachy does, we have other mentorship. LFX is not the only thing. We have Outreachy, we have Google Summer of Code, and all of these mentorships. They fill a role where they are training people and saying, hey, we are going to help you with the training, because we have our own interests to do this. So we do that for that reason. And that is helpful, hopefully reducing, for all of these employers, reducing the overhead of those 7-8 months. And then open source also is a way, because they are challenged and they feel like they're passionate about something, and if their employers support that that's retaining mechanism, right? So that also helps. Okay, this is retaining talent. Please take a look at this one as well. Open source, I believe, effectiveness of offering open source, a lot of new hires leave, and another study says that it's open source. Having an open source component in your organization does help retain talent. Relevant, this is again another thing that came in. Relevant hands-on experience is, the candidates are 95% more likely to be hired. So that just just having a degree compared to just having a degree. So take a look at this study again. And so we need help, of course. Collaborate with us by bringing your projects to the mentorship to help, and then project ideas. And mentors, we don't have mentors. So mentoring resources that's why we keep working with these resource constraints of not having enough mentors, not having enough funds. We do, by the way, it's one of the unique programs, like Google Summer of Code and Outreachy. We pay to learn. We are paying you to learn some of our programs, but we are also doing a lot of unpaid because we do not have funds anymore to be able to give scholarships to all the people all of our mentees. So here is, before I open up questions, this is a quote from my native language. It says, "Andalunte kondal daravachu," that means if you have support, you can cross mountains. So with the support of your expert developers and mentors, the mentees are able to cross mountain of being able to get that first commit in and continuing to succeed. And we're all better together. So that's really the open source philosophy. So that's my spiel. Thank you. And questions? Yes?
Yes, sure. It's very inspiring to see what you've been doing. It's fantastic to see it firsthand. It's a pleasure to meet you. Two questions for you. First is, how do you keep track of this scale of people that are, I call them thirds, there's people that excel and there's people that excel and they're go-getters, they start committing right away, right? There's others that are in the middle of the pack and waiting for somebody else to make a first move, and there's others that straggle, right? So they fall behind and maybe they don't make it. So how do you find the time or the resources, or how do you monitor that? That's the first thing. Second is an appeal to the Linux Foundation to please include your portal that you have now. You're looking for mentors, right? You're looking for project ideas. What I'm looking for is, in addition to that, is a place to put options for unpaid internships in the projects. So somebody can get picked as a paid intern, but then can be a lead at some point, right? And then the others can join as unpaid. I want to be able to offer those slots as well through the LFX's portal. So the question is how do you find stragglers and help them out? And the second one's an ask of you.
So the first few office hours I run, I run office hours for everybody. The first few office hours is I tell them that you are in charge of your learning, and I will offer you all of the resources I need. I am here to help you if you have questions. I walk them through demos and such. Some people take that's enough for a lot of people, and they just go and run with it. You can see that you have, I have about 150 every year, 50 plus graduate. That's about 1/3.
Right.
So those are the ones that are figuring out ways. Like, for example, Philip here, he not only did finish the mentorship. Did you do 6 months, Philip? Philippe? Yeah, he decided to share that with others. So he went on to, he was teaching he works for Disney, and then he was doing a boot camp to how to boot and kernel and such. And then they called him and then said, hey, can you tell us about your mentorship experience? So he is doing that. doing what now? You're actually teaching at the university now with that first step.
Applying to an adjunct position.
So that's because
Right. So give them the tools, and then
Right.
you'll have some
tools,
attrition. Yeah.
encouraging,
Right.
and then saying, I think he probably needs. Do you want to see how that came about? I think we have 5 minutes, but in the interest of time, I'll tell you what he shared. 5 minutes. Yes. So he ended up teaching at the university now with just that 6 months going into it. He contributed to the kernel, meaningful contributions, because he figured out that there is a white space that he can go and do that. And then he was also sharing what he learned. So as a result, now he's teaching. And so at the university and talking about open source. So that's kind of what. So I hope that answered your question. The second question is we do have ways to host unpaid.
Well, we do it informally now. We ask after the fact, but to offer it formally through the portal as another option for people. It's another. We can continue to use the portal as a way to vet, and attract people to the projects, but offer them alternatives because there's only one slot for one project.
Correct.
I'd like to be able to offer 4 slots for a single project, one of them being paid, the other 3 not.
Right.
But it makes it more formal, and it's recognized. They get recognized as actually being mentors, and those that do it in an unpaid fashion, I find, they come back for either a paid opportunity or they're stronger candidates in the future for other things.
Right.
So I think we're missing that unpaid opportunity as a representation on your portal. That's all I'm asking.
Right. Yeah. Let's talk offline, and we can figure that out. Yes.
I didn't either.
For the recording. How do you, or I guess, what kind of time commitment do the mentors normally need to make, and how do you incentivize mentors to be part of the program?
The mentorship to mentor 1 or 2 people for the project would take at least 4 to 6 hours, 4 hours to 6 hours a week commitment. So incentivizing, we don't pay our mentors. We just don't have funds to pay mentors. So what we do is we offer conference attendance, and we're hoping that mentors do this work to get their work done. So they might have to-do lists that they already have, because most of the mentors are coming from the community. So they have projects on their hand, or there might be technical debt that they have that they want to fill. So what I am hoping, what we are looking to do is that they would volunteer the time at the same time getting their work done. So that would be the benefit for them. In addition to just sharing knowledge in itself is a benefit. Some people value that, and also they learn as they learn. As they are teaching, they learn as well. So, but we don't have monetary thing to offer. Yes, David.
My question is, so I went through the mentorship program, and sometimes there could be like an imposter syndrome. So like, am I qualified enough to be a mentor? So I guess from my angle, I would want to know, like, what kind of requirements are you looking for, or prerequisites do you want mentors to have?
Okay. Just raise your hand and come and say, can I co-mentor with you? I will just take him. That's how in the past. This year I don't have any co-mentors because nobody raised their hand. But that's really what it is. I know you, I know my graduates, and I know their strengths. I know how they can help me. So yes, just raise your hand.
Thank you.
Okay. Looks like we're out of time, but yes, one last question. Go ahead. Yeah. Is it okay for one last question? Yes. Okay.
Thank you, and congrats for all the work that you are doing. I come from Argentina, and I'm wondering how can we increase the visibility or the presence of these programs, because Argentina and Latin America isn't really a place where kernel developers usually are. So I'm wondering how can we increase, get better at that?
Get the word out, talk to people, talk to the universities, and then let them know. We have participants from all over the world. So sometimes it spreads with word of mouth, people sharing their experiences. And then if you were to, LinkedIn is another thing. So on LinkedIn, most of the graduates keep posting their accomplishments. And then if you want to share, I think ZDNet, Stephen Wan did an article in March. You can share that. That has a lot of, I think he took all of the links that I presented and put them in there. So do that as well. So just spread the word. Maybe you go to the university and talk to somebody. Just spread the word. So, thank you very much.